the bustling town of Kisii, nestled amidst the lush greenery of Kenya, Officer Kiprotich served with distinction. He was a man of principles, a dedicated police officer whose integrity was as solid as the granite hills that surrounded his hometown. Every day, he patrolled the streets with a sense of duty, upholding the law and ensuring the safety of his community. One sunny afternoon, as Officer Kiprotich made his rounds, he noticed a commotion outside a local bank. A crowd had gathered, murmuring anxiously as a woman stood at the center, tears streaming down her face. Curious, Kiprotich approached, his keen eyes scanning the scene. "What seems to be the trouble here?" he asked, his voice calm but authoritative. The woman, named Amina, turned to him, her expression fraught with worry. "Officer, please help me. They are threatening to take my home," she pleaded, her voice trembling. Concerned, Kiprotich ushered Amina to a quiet corner and listened as she poured out her story. She had taken out a loan from the bank to start a small business selling handmade crafts. However, due to unforeseen circumstances, her business had failed and she was now struggling to repay the loan. With each passing day, the debt grew larger, and now the bank was threatening to seize her home, the only shelter she had for herself and her young daughter. Touched by her plight, Officer Kiprotich vowed to help Amina in any way he could. He escorted her to the bank manager's office and negotiated a repayment plan that would allow her more time to settle her debt. With his persuasive skills and unwavering determination, Kiprotich managed to secure a favorable agreement, providing Amina with a lifeline to save her home. Grateful beyond words, Amina thanked Kiprotich profusely, her eyes shining with tears of relief. "You're my guardian angel, officer. I don't know how to repay you," she said, her voice choked with emotion. Kiprotich simply smiled, his heart warmed by her gratitude. "Just promise me that you'll pay it forward someday," he replied, his gaze sincere. In the weeks that followed, Officer Kiprotich kept a watchful eye on Amina, ensuring that she remained safe and secure. He admired her resilience and determination to rebuild her life despite the challenges she faced. And as time went by, a bond of friendship blossomed between them, founded on mutual respect and trust. One day, out of nowhere, in one of the many meetings with Amina, Kiprotich asked Amina whether it was possible to take the bond of friendship to the next level. "Are you serious?" asked Amina, overwhelmed in emotion. Kiprotich responded in affirmative. Amina asked for more time to think over it. Even as she sorted out her financial issues, Kiprotich said he will be patient. However, the fate had other plans in store. One day, as Kiprotich walked past Amina's house, he noticed a flurry of activity. Wedding decorations adorned the entrance, and joyful laughter echoed from within. Confused, he approached cautiously, his heart heavy with a sense of foreboding. Inside, he found Amina dressed in bridal attire, her face radiant with happiness as she exchanged vows with a man whom Kiprotich had never seen before. Shocked and bewildered, Kiprotich stood frozen, his mind reeling with disbelief. After the ceremony, Amina approached Kiprotich, her smile faltering as she noticed the pained expression on his face. "Officer, I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner," she stammered, her eyes downcast. Confusion turned to hurt as Kiprotich struggled to comprehend the situation. "But what about the loan? What about your home?" he asked, his voice laced with betrayal. Amina hesitated, her gaze filled with guilt. I didn't know how to tell you. The truth is, I met someone else, then he offered to help me repay the loan. He's a good man, officer, and he loves me," she explained, her voice trembling with emotion. Stunned by her confession, Kiprotich felt a wave of betrayal wash over him. All his efforts, all his sacrifices, had been in vain. He had thought he was helping a friend in need, but now he realized he had been deceived. Heartbroken and disillusioned, Kiprotich walked away, his footsteps heavy with regret. He couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that gnawed at his soul, nor the bitter taste of disappointment that lingered in his heart. As he wandered the streets of Kisii, lost in his thoughts, Kiprotich couldn't help but wonder if his sense of duty had blinded him to the truth. Had he been too naive, too trusting? Or was it simply the nature of his job to be used and discarded, like a pawn on a chessboard? Kiprotich realized that perhaps the greatest lesson he had learned was not about the law or justice, but about the complexities of human nature. In the aftermath of Amina's betrayal, Officer Kiprotich found himself adrift in a sea of conflicting emotions. Frustration gnawed at his soul, mingling with a deep sense of depression that threatened to consume him from within. Every day felt like a struggle, a relentless battle against the demons that haunted his mind. Haunted by the memory of Amina's deception, Kiprotich found himself consumed by a desire for vengeance. Thoughts of retribution danced in his mind, whispering seductively of the sweet release that could be found in righteous anger. But beneath the surface, the voice cried out in protest, urging him to find a different path, one guided not by anger, but by wisdom and self-discovery. For weeks, Kiprotich wrestled with his inner turmoil, seeking solace in the familiar routines of his daily life. But no matter how hard he tried to bury his pain, it remained a constant presence, a silent specter that haunted his every waking moment. As the days turned into weeks, Kiprotich found himself growing increasingly disillusioned with his role as a police officer. The once noble ideals that had guided his actions now seemed hollow and meaningless, overshadowed by the harsh realities of a world filled with deceit and betrayal. Driven by a sense of desperation, Kiprotich began to entertain thoughts of abandoning his post, of leaving behind the life he had known in search of a new beginning. But even as he contemplated this drastic course of action, a small spark of hope flickered within him, reminding him that redemption was still within reach. Determined to reclaim his sense of purpose, Kiprotich embarked on a journey of self-discovery, seeking out the wisdom of mentors who had walked the path before him. Through their guidance, he learned to embrace his pain, to accept it as a necessary part of his journey towards healing and redemption. With each passing day, Kiprotich felt the weight of his burdens slowly begin to lift, replaced by a newfound sense of clarity and purpose. No longer bound by the shackles of his past, he embraced his role as a guardian of justice with renewed vigor, determined to make a difference in the lives of those he swore to protect. But even as he rededicated himself to his duty, Kiprotich remained ever vigilant, wary of the temptations that lurked in the shadows. He knew that the path to redemption was fraught with peril, but he also knew that he possessed the strength and resilience to overcome any obstacle that stood in his way. And so, with his eyes fixed firmly on the horizon, Officer Kiprotich set out to redefine himself as a man, to put himself first and to entertain no bullshit from anyone. For he knew that true strength lay not in the absence of pain, but in the courage to face it head-on and emerge victorious on the other side. And as he walked the streets of Kisii once more, his heart filled with a newfound sense of purpose, Kiprotich knew that he had finally found his place in the world. For he was no longer just a police officer, but a beacon of hope in a world filled with darkness, a shining example of the power of redemption and the resilience of the human spirit.